March 12, 1944. South Pacific, north of Truk Lagoon. 11:15 in the morning. The ocean looked innocent that day. Flat, blue, endless. To the men who had survived too long in that war, calm water was never peace. It was bait. 20,000 feet above that calm, a single aircraft cut through sunlight. A United States Navy F6F Hellcat modified for long-range rescue patrol, its dark blue wings glinting like mirrors in a sky too clear to trust. At its controls sat Lieutenant Commander Daniel Reeves, 30 years old, veteran of Midway and Santa Cruz, flying alone. He had taken off that morning to find men who had fallen. A bomber crew had gone down somewhere between Truk and Ponape. His job was simple on paper. Fly north, spot their rafts, call for the PBY to bring them home. But paper never accounts for weather, fuel, or fate. He had been circling for an hour when the first dots appeared on the horizon. Tiny specks, glinting silver-white against the sun. He thought at first it was a flight of Hellcats returning to base. Then the radio crackled with static. Not voices, just a high, thin whine that grew louder with every second. 12 planes, all climbing, all coming for him. Japanese Zeros. Reeves tightened the harness, throttled forward, and felt the familiar lurch of an aircraft no longer bound by mercy. He was a rescue pilot, not a hunter. 2 machine guns, 400 rounds, and 5 hours of fuel were all he had. Above him, the Zeros spread like a halo of metallic angels, beautiful and lethal. He could have dived for the ocean and ditched, waited for the sea to decide his fate. Instead, he leveled out, turned into the sun, and spoke quietly into the dead radio. "Come on then," he said. "Let's see what 5 hours looks like." The first burst of gunfire tore past the canopy. Thin lines of tracer that glowed like meteors in daylight. He rolled left, dove, and the Pacific filled his entire windshield. A blue mirror rushing upward. He pulled out at 500 feet, the Zeros screaming past above him. The radio was still dead. The world shrunk to noise and light, and the heartbeat of engines overstressed beyond reason. 5 hours of fuel, 5 hours of sky, 5 hours to live or be remembered. What followed was not a mission. It was a circle of fire drawn across the Pacific. 1 man against 12. The air itself turned to war. By the time the sun set, he would have nothing left to fight with but his own will, and the sky, the same sky that had tried to kill him, would be the only thing keeping him alive. By the spring of 1944, the Pacific War had become a battle of miles. Islands were no longer places on a map. They were coordinates, measured by how far a pilot could fly before his fuel turned from minutes to hope. Every mile of ocean was a frontier, every cloud a question. The great carrier fleets had pushed west, inch by inch, closer to Japan's heart. But between those carriers and the men who fell into the sea lay a void. An endless, empty silence that rescue pilots like Daniel Reeves were asked to fill. Reeves had been one of the best. Before he flew rescue, he flew to kill. A dive bomber pilot at Midway, a veteran of Guadalcanal, he had seen what happened when courage met arithmetic. Planes that didn't come back. Names that stopped being spoken after a week. He'd been shot down once himself, dragged half dead from a life raft by a destroyer crew who found him by luck, not by radio. After that, he volunteered for rescue duty. "If I can't stop men from dying," he'd said, "maybe I can keep them from being forgotten." The Navy didn't argue. It needed men who could find ghosts. Rescue flights were the quiet side of the war. They left at dawn and returned by dusk, unarmed or nearly so, tracing lonely lines across a sky that killed as efficiently as any enemy. Reeves flew a converted fighter stripped of armor, fitted with long-range tanks and rescue gear. It could fly farther than any patrol plane, but not fast enough to outrun trouble. Every man who took that assignment knew it. They called themselves Sky Lifeguards, but everyone else called them something different. The men who fly toward disaster. On the morning of March 12th, the radio traffic from Truk was a tangle of numbers and fear. A bomber had gone down northeast of the lagoon, last reported afloat. Weather clear, visibility 20 miles, no surface ships in range. Reeves listened to the coordinates, adjusted his compass, and said, "We'll get them." He didn't ask if anyone else was coming. He already knew the answer. The fleet was busy. The skies were crowded elsewhere. Out here it was just him. One aircraft, one mission, and a horizon that never ended. An hour after takeoff, the world was quiet again. The ocean below was calm and empty, the color of polished steel. In that silence, Reeves understood why the Pacific frightened men more than any battlefield. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to land, and no one to hear you if you screamed. In this war, distance was the real enemy. The Zeros, the storms, the bullets, they were just details. It was distance that killed first. Somewhere below that endless blue, the downed crew still drifted, hoping someone would find them before the sea did. Reeves had seen their kind before. Men clinging to rubber rafts, eyes burned by salt, talking to the sky as if it might answer. He would not fail them. He checked his fuel, his radio, and the faint echo on his radar that might have been a reflection or a promise. Then he throttled forward and disappeared into the horizon. By noon, the world had shrunk to wind, sun, and the hum of an engine that had started to sound too human. Reeves leaned forward in his seat, squinting through the canopy. The Pacific below him was still empty, but something about the silence had changed. Too clean, too heavy. He'd been at war long enough to know what that meant. The ocean was holding its breath again. Something was waiting. At 1300 hours, the ocean stopped pretending to be empty. The radar operator's voice, steady but tight, broke through the static. "Sir, multiple returns. Bearing 150, 12 miles. Fast movers." Reeves didn't look away from the horizon. He had known they would come. The Japanese never left their skies undefended this close to Truk. He keyed the radio, sent a single coded burst. "Survivors located. Enemy inbound." Then he switched it off. If help was coming, it would not come soon. Below, the sea shimmered with heat. Two small shapes floated on its surface. Life rafts, barely visible against the glare. As Reeves dropped altitude, he could make out movement, arms waving, the flash of a mirror. They had seen him. He felt a pull in his chest. Relief and dread tangled together. He throttled down, banked into a slow circle. "We've got them," he said. The operator exhaled audibly, as if the ocean itself had been holding its breath. Then the first Zero appeared. It came out of the sun. A white glint at first, then wings, then fire. Reeves slammed the throttle forward. The rescue plane lurched upward, heavy with fuel, sluggish against the sudden violence. Another Zero dove in from the right. Tracers cut across the sky like handwriting. He rolled, narrowly avoiding the burst, then dove again. His aircraft wasn't built for this. Too broad, too slow. But he had flown worse odds before. "Strap in," he ordered. "We're staying low." The sea filled the windows, blue and endless and deadly close. Reeves flew barely 50 feet above the waves, the slipstream tearing salt spray into his cockpit. The Zeros followed, disciplined, patient. They didn't rush. They were hunters who had found their prey. He could hear the rattle of the dorsal gunner firing short bursts, each one answered by the sharper hiss of enemy tracers. "Two closing, high left," the gunner shouted. Reeves pulled hard to port, then climbed just enough to throw off their aim. The engine screamed. The plane shuddered. Metal groaned like it wanted to give up. "Sir, we can't fight them," the operator yelled. Reeves didn't answer. He turned his eyes toward the rafts now vanishing beneath the waves behind him. He could still see them. Small, helpless, the reason he had come. "We're not leaving them," he said quietly. "If we draw the Zeros off, someone might still get there." He leveled out, took a deep breath, and began a wide climbing turn back toward the sun. The Zeros followed, expecting panic. They got something colder. Reeves waited until the lead plane crossed into the glare, then snapped the stick forward, diving head-on into their formation. The machine guns barked, 2 short bursts, and the lead Zero disintegrated into flame. The others scattered, wings flashing white in the glare. "Scratch one," the gunner said, his voice shaking. Reeves didn't celebrate. He just said, "Good. That makes 11. The battle unfolded in silence punctuated by violence. Bursts of gunfire, then long stretches where only the sea spoke. Each pass bled away fuel, ammunition, and luck. By 1400 hours, the plane was bleeding hydraulic fluid. The dorsal gun jammed. The operator was wounded, slumped against his station, still trying to reload belts with trembling hands. Reeves flew on. The radio hissed once more. Faint, broken English through static. American pilot. Surrender! You cannot win! Reeves smiled without humor. I'm not here to win, he said softly. I'm here to stay. Then he cut the radio again. For the next hour, the Pacific sky became a carousel of fire and silence. The rescue plane turned, dove, climbed, and turned again, each motion slower than the last, each second harder to buy. The Zeros, frustrated now, attacked in pairs, sweeping in low from the sun. Reeves countered with altitude and shadow, using clouds like armor. His engine coughed, caught, and coughed again. When it did, he whispered, "Stay with me, girl. They can't have you yet." At 1500 hours, the world was red. Sun, metal, blood, all blurring together. The downed crew was gone from sight, swallowed by distance. Reeves no longer flew for them. He flew for the promise he had made the ocean the day it almost took him. Not today. The Zeros regrouped above, circling like vultures waiting for the sky to finish what they had started. Reeves wiped the sweat and salt from his eyes and pulled the stick back one more time. He had 300 rounds left, half a tank of fuel, and no illusions. The next pass would decide whether he died or made history. 1500 hours. The Pacific burned with sunlight so bright it looked like heaven had caught fire. The sky above Truk was empty for seconds at a time, and then alive again, Zeros flashing through the glare like silver knives. Reeves had been fighting for nearly 4 hours. His arms felt carved from iron, his vision blurred with sweat and smoke. The cabin stank of cordite and hydraulic oil. His right engine coughed, caught, and began to bleed flame along the cowling. He hit the extinguisher switch and prayed it would hold. It did. For now. The dorsal gunner was gone. A clean hit an hour earlier, slumped against the belt feed like a man asleep. The radio operator lay pale but breathing. Reeves was alone with the sky and the noise. He counted 6 Zeros still circling, patient and silent. They were waiting for him to make a mistake. He smiled faintly. "You'll wait a while," he muttered. He flew lower, 50 feet, then 30. The prop wash kicking spray so high it looked like he was dragging the ocean behind him. The Zeros dove again, their shadows racing across the water. He jinked left, then climbed into their path. 2 came too close. He squeezed the trigger once, a short burst, and one disintegrated in mid-air. The other clipped the debris and cartwheeled into the waves. 4 left. The 4th hour came and went like a fever dream. The horizon blurred. The sky changed colors, gold, then copper, then blood. His hands trembled, but the instincts were still there. Turn into the attack. Never give them your belly. Use the sun. Use the storm. Use whatever still believes in you. Dark clouds rolled in from the west. Tropical thunderheads towering 30,000 feet high, bruised purple and black. Reeves saw his chance. "You want me," he whispered. "Come through the storm." He dove straight into the wall of cloud. Rain hammered the canopy. Lightning flashed so close it looked solid. Inside that chaos, the Zeros lost formation. Their wings iced, their engines screamed. He turned in the dark, letting the storm hide his trail. 1 Zero passed him by, close enough that he could see the pilot's face, wide-eyed, searching. Reeves pulled the trigger. A brief flash, then nothing. 3 left. Time dissolved. There was no clock anymore. Only breath, recoil, and the endless hum of the engine holding him between sky and sea. The storm broke open again, revealing a world washed clean by rain. Reeves's plane limped through it, wings riddled, bullet holes glowing orange in the sunset. The last 3 Zeros hesitated, circling at distance. They were low on fuel, so was he. It would come down to who ran out first, courage or gasoline. At 1600 hours, one of them tried. It came in from below, rising fast. Reeves saw the glint of its nose, the spinning prop. He pulled up hard, rolled inverted, and met it head-on. 2 planes, 2 pilots, one moment that would outlive both. He fired everything he had left. The guns screamed until they went silent. The Zero's canopy erupted in flame, but its momentum carried it forward. They passed within yards. The enemy pilot's eyes locked on his. Then the Zero was gone, trailing smoke, vanishing into the ocean with a single flash of light. Silence. True silence. The kind that only comes after too much noise. Reeves leveled out, breathing in short bursts. His gauges were empty, his wings shredded, his fuel almost gone. The Pacific stretched below, calm again, as if none of it had happened. The last two Zeros were gone. Vanished, fled, or fallen. He didn't care. The sky was finally his again. He turned toward the coordinates of the life rafts, or what he remembered of them. The compass needle wavered. The engine sputtered. He throttled back and began his descent. When the wheels touched the surface, the impact was soft. A kiss from the sea he'd fought all day to avoid. The aircraft settled, half floating, half dying. Reeves unbuckled himself and climbed out into the light. The ocean was quiet. The smoke had drifted away. The sun hung low and red, turning every wave into liquid fire. A mile off, two yellow rafts bobbed in the distance. He waved once, then started paddling toward them with a piece of torn wing metal. His arms shook. He didn't stop. By the time he reached them, the survivors were barely conscious. Two men, sunburned, silent, staring as if they had seen God. Reeves climbed aboard, every muscle screaming. No one spoke. They didn't need to. The sea around them was littered with oil, foam, and silence. Night came slowly, violet and gold. Lightning flickered on the horizon, echoing the storm that had saved him. Reeves leaned back against the raft's edge and looked at the sky. He thought of his squadron, his friends, all the names already gone to the sea. He thought of the Zero pilot's eyes, the brief second before fire, and he thought of how small the world looked from here, a single raft adrift in a war too large for memory. They drifted till dawn. When the rescue Catalina found them, the first words out of the pilot's mouth were disbelief. "How the hell are you alive?" Reeves only smiled. "Guess the sky wasn't finished with me yet." When they brought him aboard, they counted the holes. 53 across the fuselage, both wings torn, one engine destroyed, one life borrowed. The official report would call it 5 hours of continuous engagement, 5 kills confirmed, 1 miracle unlisted. He never flew again. Some said his hands never stopped shaking. Others said he just got tired of the noise. But every man who met him afterward swore he still looked upward when he talked, as if listening for something only he could hear. That day over the Pacific, one man had faced an empire and outlasted time itself. He hadn't won, not really, but he had refused to fall. And in war, sometimes that's the same thing. When the sun rose the next morning, it found only stillness, a calm sea that kept its secrets. The war moved on. The headlines spoke of other battles, other victories. But for 5 hours in March 1944, the sky itself had chosen a side. It chose him. If stories like this remind you that courage isn't thunder, but endurance, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and join our crew of listeners who still believe that history's quietest battles deserve to be heard. Every day we bring you another moment when men met the impossible, and the world held its breath.